right? I can sit and talk to your teacher here. What am I going to ask him? I'm going to ask him about his stories that brought him. Why is he sitting in this chair? And what is it that drove him to do what he's going to do? At the bottom, right? He's a jovial guy, and he and I could have a great time, and we could tell jokes and all of that. But at the bottom of what's going on, what I want to know about him is what has him here? And he's going to want to know about me. What has me standing in front of a group of people? Why would I drive out to the middle of Corona or Norco, right, and actually talk to people about what I love to do? And the reason is because that's how powerful those stories are for me. I live them every day. I tell them every day. Those stories are really, really important to me. And when I wrote my book, and you guys will all read it, it's a storybook. It's a crack up. You're going to read that. And the kudos that I wanted to get, and I didn't get done doing them, is I've never written anything before with an education that I received at Jefferson Elementary, Letha Rainey Junior High, and Corona High School, and a little college piece added on. And I didn't go to a fancy one. I went to BYU in Provo, Utah, because that's the only school that would have me. And so I was one of those kids. I was not a Phi Beta Kappa by any stretch of the imagination. And yet all of those skills to stand where I do today and to do what I do today were developed right here. The same teachers that teach you every day, those are the people that taught me how to write, how to tell stories, how to communicate, how to be who I am. They're the ones that encouraged me when I was passionate, because the one thing you do as a person is you look inside and you find what's the best thing I do. For some people it's quiet communication. For other people it's to hold big space, right? And I was one of those people that sat back in the corner and I never said anything, and someone went, wait a minute, you know? What this guy does is he exudes passion. You probably tell. Everything I do, guess what, man? I'm here to do it because I get excited about it. I get passionate about it. And so there were teachers that would say, no, we want that. Don't sit in the corner and not express it. Tell us what you have to say. So really, leadership, if you think about it, is happening right now. We think that that's some fancy class that you go take and something you learn how to do, and it's not. You do it every single day, and the way you do it is in noticing and holding your stories. That's how that happens. Now there's funny things. You can drive around town here, and I can tell you stories about all sorts of different places, around the town that we all live in here, right? You guys are going to get to do the same thing, only you're going to have a version that's later than the one that I have. So the history of this little place that we live in is constantly making itself. And while you're connected to it in the way that you guys are connected to it, that's when the stories are really bubbling and happening. It's going to matter. You're going to talk about, how many like McGill's Junior fans in here, right? So let me tell you, sounds crazy. They just put one in Orange County. There's one on there's one. Do you know where the Outback is on the Newport Boulevard and 17th Street? So right behind the Outback is a Miguel's Junior, right?
I thought it was only Corona.
Yep. Nope. So three weeks ago. So you know how long I've been telling people stories about Miguel's Junior? Because 50 years at least. Because why? You may want to know why would I do that, right? Because nobody else in California knows what chili verde is, right? Yeah. What they do is they chop pork up and they don't really cook it, right? They don't stew it, right? You know, it's like it doesn't fall off the bones, and it's not like that really good green sauce, you know? And they don't put it with potatoes, like, right? You put chili verde goes with potatoes and you wrap it in a burrito, right? That's how it's supposed to be served. Of course, I know that. I'm from here, right? So I've been talking about how chili verde sucks basically in the entire state of California. There's only one place to find it, and that's in this little valley right here. And you go to a place called Miguel's Junior, and they'll serve you a potato burrito, and you will get real chili verde. 3 weeks ago, I sent out an email, and I said, okay, I'm putting it to the test. I had 45 of my friends show up in Orange County, all my Orange County friends, who have been listening to me for, I'm sure that they're ready to faint away from hearing the chili verde story that I tell all the time. And they all showed up at Miguel's Junior. And it happened that a fellow who was there used to be the manager down here on the one that's on West 6th, if you know where that one is, out on that part of town. So I used to see him every now and I'd go in and I'd see him. And when we came in, of course, he knew I was from Corona. And he was like, cool, man. They set up a whole corner, right, and pulled all those Orange County guys, and we had chili verde flying, man. It was happening. Everybody had a really, really good time, right? So here I am 50 years later, right? inviting 45 of my friends who I've been leaning on for all of that time, telling them the story of what? Chili Verde, right? Because this is the only place to get, we have the only good Chili Verde there is. I'm telling you right now, we have it. It's ours. It's part of our heritage. And just the silly things like that in our little city that we have that nobody else has. You know, we treasure it, and it's our stuff. And when you talk about it and you light up, right? And I'll tell stories. Does anybody know that in 1968 it snowed in Corona and Norco? Don't know that, do you? Right? So here we are. We're getting ready. I'm a sophomore at Corona High, right? And we're all go to our last little assembly before they send us off for the holidays. So the principal gets up front, and he can't be 2 sentences into the hello, welcome to the assembly, and we're going to talk to you, whatever, da-da-da. And somebody opens the doors at the end of the gymnasium out onto where the basketball court's at Corona High. If you know where that is, it's up on the top end. And all we could see was it looked like Iowa out there, right? And we got up and left. The entire student body got up and left, and we proceeded to go out onto the basketball courts, and we had a snowball fight, right? Now, if you wanna see that snowball fight, there's a little site on Facebook called 10 Ways That You Know You Grew Up in Corona. Go out to that site, and you will find the picture of the snowball fight. And in the middle of it, you'll see me, because I was out there in the middle of it. So that snowball fight happened here. We had literally 3 feet of snow on the ground by the end of that storm. It was a real, true, honest-to-goodness snowstorm in the middle of Corona. It was in December of 1968. At the time, I lived out near Surface Golf Course, if you guys know where that is. So when we got done and the buses took us out, we were like, hey, this rocks. What we're going to do, we're going to go get some cardboard, because you know what we're going to do, right? There's golf courses out there, and guess what? They're on a slant, and there's 3 feet of snow out on the side of those golf courses. And we spent the rest of the day after school sliding down the sides of the golf course hills in Corona. So one of our stories, right? I tell that story all the time. I stand in front of people that run huge companies, that if I have a need for the Corona snow story, I have that. If I want to tell them about Chili Verde from Miguel's Jr., I tell them that story. It's the little stuff that we all share that makes us who we are, because we're from here. It's how we are. It's how we're driven. It's how we work. It's our stuff. And it's that stuff that we connect to, that we actually, when people touch us and they connect with us, they say, oh, this person's really here. They're present, right? If you can tell your own story, if you know what your own story is, and that includes the struggles, right? When you go to school for a week in a row, right, and you're really feeling like you don't belong here, and you're wrestling with that, right? I don't belong, it sucks, life isn't really very good. Everybody has that. It's a great story, right? You may not, at the time, it's not so great, but the minute you're out of it, write it down, right? The wrestling match with life is what makes you who you are, and people want to understand that. They want to understand that that's the case, right? So I work in the corporate world, you know. I have had more companies fail in my career that I have run than I have had those that succeed. Just that simple, you know. I have failed more times by far than I have ever succeeded. Guess where the best stories are? In the failures, right? The best stories are in where we struggled, you know, where groups, we tried to do stuff that couldn't be done. And it bonded us together. You know, the struggles of life are the best stories that you guys will ever find.